What's up, guys? Welcome to my vlog. I wanted to go over some drills that I like. I'm going to go through 3 drills that I like, and then I'm going to go through and talk about drills that I don't like so much. Get my camera set up there. So the first drill is the one that, I really think it's pretty much the only drill you need for swing mechanics. Now, I know that would seem ridiculous to a lot of people. Like, today's culture is so infatuated with having, tens of drills that are in someone's repertoire. And I just don't think that that's necessary. So I'm going to go through 3, but really this drill, I think, mechanically is really just in terms of the way you move through the swing. And the reason why I separate that out is because, there's a secondary cushion, there's sort of adjustments that you can make, that you can work on. But as far as just the way you move through the swing, this is really the only drill you really need. And it's the front arm progression. There is ample evidence that clearly a non-dominant back arm is correlated really to great pound for pound hitting. I think it's something like 60, almost 65% of the lefties on the top pound for pound list, which you can get at theswingmechanic.com, had a non-dominant back arm in some way or another, whether they threw with their front arm or they wrote with their front arm. Their back arm was non-dominant in some way. Now, why do I not say that they were front arm dominant necessarily? Because I want to focus on the non-dominance of the back arm. And the implication is that if you are dominant in your front arm, that the back arm is equally less dominant. But a lot of times people don't really see that implication. It's an important one. Because if that wasn't the case, if it was really about being dominant in your front arm, then we could, if we had a non-dominant front arm, we could just do things like throw with it or write with it, make it do more things, put dishes away with it, brush our teeth with it, and that should help our hitting. But that wouldn't help our hitting because it's about having a non-dominant back arm, and we can't really go back and make our either arm less coordinated. So the real answer is that you do the front arm progression. And why is that? Because the front arm progression, when you take away the back, so the front arm progression starts with you swinging with just your front arm. And here we'll take a look at Matt Cain, who has a great swing, great power for his size, and has been a regular practicer of the front arm progression for at least a couple years now, and he's just got a great action. So the front arm progression, so front arm progression starts off right here where he is swinging with just his front arm. And what this does is the front arm, whether it's real coordinated or not, if it has a heavy enough bat, if it's holding a heavy enough bat, the front arm, coordinated or not, does pretty much the same action. If it's going to work on its own, it does pretty much the same action to deliver the most force. What is that action? It's basically to get real close. Doesn't have to be pinned up against the chest necessarily, but it gets real close to the chest as you start forward, the barrel drops. It's basically catching a free ride. Now, not everybody has the flexibility in their front shoulder to, to get ramrod straight in their front arm and get the hands way behind them at the same time. Some of us need a little bit more bend in the front arm. I injured my left shoulder, and this would be my front shoulder in the swing because I'm right-handed. I injured it at a young age, lifting weights. And I think that damaged, that hurt my ability to get flexibility. I think from that injury on, I became just more and more back arm dominant in my swing and didn't realize it. But, so it's not real necessary to get real straight with the front arm. A lot of people, think that I'm, that's all my theory is really about. But if you look at what's necessary is really the overall structure. And that is one where, yes, you are getting if you're swinging with just your front arm, you're getting your hand more behind you as the barrel drops. Basically, the arm is catching a free ride from the rotating body, which is what you want. You want early on in the swing for this free ride to be taken. Otherwise, you're swinging with just your arms. And it's so funny that instructors out there, like, they actually have an understanding of the swing that moves hitters more towards this arm-only swing, this arm-controlled swing, where that shouldn't make any sense. Obviously, to start the movement off, you should want your arms, which are much weaker than the trunk of your body. You should want your arms to catch this free ride from the rotating body, which has so much force behind it. So, again, whether the front arm is dominant or not, it's going to want to do, if it's going to deliver the most amount of force, it's going to want to catch this free ride, get this flattening of the barrel, get that overall structure at the start of the swing. So that's the first step in the front arm progression. And you can see, because there's almost like this no man's land as you transition from the backswing, we'll call it, into the forward swing, there's this brief moment in time where there's not as much force being acted on the arms coming from the body, and so gravity influences the arm briefly, and the bat, and that's why you see this dropping action. That's gravity taking the barrel. Beautiful action here. This is absolutely perfect action that you want with the front arm progression. Now, you see him in a position here where the barrel is real flat, the hands are real low. When you attach the back arm, you're not necessarily going to be able to achieve this drastic of a position. But this is still the feel that you're going to have, not in the front arm, but not just the front arm. What's great about just swinging with just the front arm is it gives you the structure that the lower body needs to take. It gives you the overall structure. I want you guys to understand that that's the beauty of this. A lot of people, I think that we're just trying to get the right feel in the front arm. We're just trying to flatten the barrel. But when you do those things, your body has to act completely differently. So understand that the swing is one whole piece. If the arms are doing a certain action, the body's going to adjust its movement to support that action. So what does it do? Well, it's it basically does what's called, and you could call it sort of a sitting motion. I like to call it like a sit motion at this point. So it's like you get a little bit lower, and then what's happening is you're going to use that getting lower process to then thrust into contact. You're literally getting your body weight into the hit. I'm not sure why this isn't seen as obvious out there in instruction. That, I mean, obviously we want to get our body into the hit, our trunk, our torso, but also the energy coming from the legs. We want as much of that as possible. And you can see he's poised to do that. It's almost like you are, tossing a sack. You know, you would use this sort of action. So there you can see he's thrusting into the hit, using his body basically. The front arm is basically just kind of holding on and really catching mostly a free ride. Now, I would like to see you guys move the tee around when doing this. It's not like every hit is going to be this connected, but if you're able to have this connected of a position at contact, then you can always adjust in the forward direction. You know, a lot of theories out there, they credit like one aspect that this particular swing helps you with. It helps you be quicker in your launch, or it helps you make contact more often. Well, those are all important things, but it's just an oversimplification a lot of times out there when I hear instructors talking about the swing. Like, they don't mention things like this adjustability. Look how connected he is in his baseline position at contact. This means he's able to extend in the forward direction, just extend that where contact is, and basically use his arms to extend outward if he needs to adjust on a pitch that he's early on. But this is his baseline position at contact. Now, the next step of the front arm progression is hovering the back hand over the barrel. Now, I would like to see the backhand stay over the barrel at this point. Notice how it drops down. I want to see it stay over the barrel even into about here. I mean, as far as you can go. Because we're looking to train the back side of the body now to feel, okay, what's it going to feel like? Now, his arm is, it might not be the case with this particular swing, but a lot of times the reason why they want the back arm to stop hovering all the way through the swing is because the body resists change. The body will resist the front arm progression. In the comments, if you guys would talk about how maybe your experience with the front arm progression, you experienced this resistance of the body. This is one way you will experience this resistance, is the back arm will not want to stay on the handle, hovering near the handle, because it just doesn't, it's unfamiliar movement. So keep the back hand hovering over the handle all the way into the finish for you guys starting off on this front arm progression. Now here's his regular swing. Here he's just trying to feel the same things that he felt in the first two steps. And you can see he's got it. He's not getting as flat at this point, but he's still flattening out. So we're not going to necessarily achieve the extreme of the positions that we achieved in the first step, because the back arm is now added on the bat. But beautiful positioning here. This is a real key position in the swing. Just the barrel flattening out, the hands coming from a position of more behind you. That tells me that, okay, this guy's using a lot of his body to hit the ball. It's also important to know that, like, we're not talking about black and white here. Sometimes swings are very body controlled, and sometimes swings are very arm controlled, but sometimes they have elements of both. Nice connected position at contact there. and then extension into the finish. This is a kid who's getting the most out of his body weight. So here we have a child doing the back arm doorway drill, as I explained in a previous YouTube video. This is a drill that I do like for getting the back arm feel. The front arm progression is my number one, and I believe that that's the drill that's really going to actually change baseball swing instruction. But let's talk about some other supplemental drills that I think are very good. First of all, there's a doorway in every, home or facility that you go in. Now here they're not using a doorway, they're using an L screen, but and they added a moving ball, which isn't really necessary, but it's not detrimental. And what he's doing is he's just letting the back arm slide down the L screen as he goes forward. Now, the way he's doing it, I would correct him and say, don't dip that back shoulder. Let the arm drop independently. You want to feel that it's gravity. It's not, your arm's not dropping because you're tilting backwards. It's gravity taking your hands. I want to see a sign that gravity is indeed taking your hands. So this is a good feel for what you want to feel in the back arm. So you're open as you start to open up, you're also having the hands slide down the side of the doorway. And again, this is something you can just do at home anytime, just to get that feel. So another one, I was working with Declan Peterson, his pro player in California, so here you see his swing. It's got a little flip in it through contact. You can see that in this position here. Now, I should say, if you look at his swings in games, he's actually much more connected and doesn't have as much flip. I see that often. You'll see that when guys are just swinging off a tee, it's a little bit different. And some players, it'll be a lot different off the tee than it is with a moving pitch. So, but that's fine. I mean, basically, if the tee exaggerates an arm-controlled swing or exaggerates him in the arm-controlled direction, then that's okay. That's actually good. I want to see the problems when we're hitting off a tee. I don't want them to be covered up. So you can see the hands are kind of pushing out, and then you see a little bit of flip right there as the back arm and the bat are not in alignment. So I really wanted him to feel. So we did some front arm progression as I always do, but I wanted him to feel. I guess you could call it the casting drill or the pre-extension drill. Basically, you pre-extend the barrel at the very start. Just get rid of any sort of wrist snap. Because what's going on here is he's relying on a lot of wrist snap to hit the ball. And a lot of hitters out there do that. And so what happens is the back arm pushes outward, and then he just relies on a lot of wrist snap. So what can work really well is just getting that wrist snap out of the swing and just pre-extending it at the very start. If you look at guys like Jackie Robinson, you look at Albert Bell, Stan Musial to a certain extent, Ronald Acuna to a certain extent, but not as drastic as Robinson and Bell. These guys really extended the bat and swung from there, and they had almost no wrist in their hits. So I had him pre-extended. Now what Declan kept doing was, notice how the barrel kind of comes back a little bit here. I wanted him to keep it out. So if you're going to do this drill, keep the barrel extended out the whole time. But he's just so reliant on the wrist, and you can see it even here just after contact. You see that flip right there. So I was telling him at this point, I was saying more, do it more, and I was focusing on this point right here, because what he was doing is he's bringing the barrel back towards him so he can flip. So I was telling him again, he did it better on this one. He didn't bring the barrel as much toward him, and you can see the back arm and bat are a little bit more in line after what would be contact. So, and then I tell him again, I say, you're still doing it. You're still bringing the barrel towards you as you start forward. So he exaggerated it even more. And here you can see, look at how straight he is with the back arm and bat after contact. So he's really feeling this almost like no release of the wrist kind of swing. It forces the body. It forces the body to get into the hit. And that's really the main difference between a great swing and a swing that at best can produce a high average. So then he hit some balls trying to feel that. But notice how I have him away from the ball. Whenever we add a ball in any form, even if it's not moving, but if it's moving even more so, it will take away your attention of what you're trying to do with your mechanics. So even off the tee, I was noticing it was hard for him to make many changes. So I just said, step away from the tee. Let's get a feel for what we're trying to do. Take 5 or so swings and just really feel what we're trying to do. And you can see in just those 3 swings, dry cuts that he did away from the tee, just in those 3, he made improvements. So he was able to feel it, and oftentimes he went back to the tee and he would go back to old habits. So a lot of, this change sometimes can take some time. But it doesn't have to. I do want to communicate it doesn't have to. You can really shed your mechanical flaws in just minutes. But sometimes our bodies are just so stubborn. But if you're willing to go outside your comfort zone, feel something different, and really think almost feel outside the box, then you can make a change real fast. It's just that our bodies are so stubborn. I mean, this goes for everything, even movement, but everyday things as well. You'd be amazed at how much we cling to old habits, old thought patterns, and old movement patterns. So it really depends on how open-minded you are to and willing you are to just feel something completely different. Feel something that almost doesn't feel like a baseball swing to you. So now let's talk about the drills that I'm against. Now, nothing against these guys, these instructors, but they're just conveying what's really conventionally out there. And I'll say that what I'm against is any drill like this that doesn't use body rotation. I mean, I don't know what this obsession is. Actually, I do know why it is. Why we have this obsession with getting body rotation out of the hit. It's the fear of committing to the pitch. Well, I have news for you. You can't get anything good in life without making a commitment. You can't get anything good in life without risking. And the bottom line is we have to rotate our body open to commit to the pitch at some point. And even in these swings where they're trying to get the body rotation out of it, the body still rotates. I mean, he's still 100% rotated towards the pitcher at this point. He just hasn't used his rotation to move his hands into contact. Now they do this in the name of I don't know, being prudent. And again, I see it in so many sports where they just assume that the prudent thing is to take all power out of your movement. You see it in golf. They always, the whole myth in golf was, you know, if you want to hit it straight, don't try to swing so hard. You still hear that kind of talk. Meanwhile, some of the best ball strikers I've ever seen were also some of the longest hitters. And, you know, and for sure, the best hitters in baseball, you know, have been the guys who hit the ball the farthest. But instruction, I think, for a variety of reasons. One, you know, they're typically selling to parents, and parents like safety. They like conservatism, and it just sounds like the prudent thing. You know, we're not going to go for power. We're going to be a team player and slap the ball around the field, and that's the right way to do it. Look, if that was the right way to do it, if that was the most way to be the most valuable hitter, I'd be all over it. You know, I just like the right way. That's what I like. And I've found that the right way is being sold to you as one thing when it's really something else. Power, and another reason why I think coaches discount power is because power has simply been underrated in baseball outside of instruction. And I think that has a lot to do with owners just have traditionally favored owners and fans because they can relate to the slap hitter, you know, hustling, average hitter type of guy. But owners have because the home run hitters have been hard to deal with. So I think it really comes from the top where management and the owners from the top down have tried to sell you on the slap hitter being more valuable. And so I was sold on this. I was an 80s kid. I was in my, you know, I was in, what was I? From 4 to 14 were the 80s for me. I was very impressionable as a kid, and I bought into exactly what was popular in the 80s, which was these slap hitters. And even now, even to today, you know, there's so much reverence for Tony Gwynn. And Tony Gwynn was amazing. But he climbed a ladder that's leaning up against the wrong wall. He was the Michael Jordan of a wall that simply has a limit on how good you can be, on how valuable you can be at the plate. He was the Michael Jordan of slap hitting, and yet he wasn't even as valuable as John Kruk because Kruk had more power. He wasn't even as valuable as a lot of guys who, I think Gene Tennis, if I'm not mistaken, had a higher OPS plus than Tony Gwynn. These guys had more power but a lower average. Well, all you got to do then is take these guys with that level of power and then also add a high average, and you have guys like Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, the very best, Ted Williams, Babe Ruth, Ken Griffey Jr. These guys had average and power, and you're always going to be more valuable if you can hit for average and power as opposed to just hitting for average. And that kind of slappy swing where you're not using your body rotation and just pushing your hands out at the ball. And notice this trend where they're trying to keep the back like heel on the ground. This whole deceleration idea. Again, trying to take the body out of it. It's so strange to me, but yet it makes so much sense. It's from the top down. It all comes from this overemphasis on the value of slap hitting, which then leads to instructors thinking, oh, well, it must be about getting rid of all power in the swing. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I see the same thing in other sports, MMA as well. You know, I talk often about the punch movement, how there's a huge opportunity in the punch movement. We just saw this with Jose Ramirez and Tim Anderson. You know, what was the punch that dropped the guy? It was a haymaker. It was a circular punch, which has always been vilified in boxing and now MMA instruction. And I'm not the only guy to talk about it. Why has it been vilified? Because there's power behind it. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but it's like instruction has always tried to take power away. The first MMA class I ever went to, I will never forget this. It is burned in my memory. Johnny Hendricks had just knocked out John Fitch in about 13 seconds. How valuable is that, by the way? You're an MMA fighter, and you can get out of a fight in 13 seconds with a haymaker punch is what he beat him with. Believe it was the first punch he threw. Check out that fight. It's on YouTube somewhere. John Fitch, Johnny Hendricks. Beautiful, beautiful finish. I was in this MMA class. It was like a Tuesday after that fight had happened. And I said, are we going to be learning the Johnny Hendricks punch? And the instructor said, no, we're going to be learning some real boxing today. This is the mentality out there with instructors. So, and it trickles into the instruction. I mean, it trickles into what they favor, what they say is right. And this is another one. This is Josh Cathcart, who reached out to me. We had a conversation. I guess what we talked about didn't really make an impression yet, but I believe that because he's still basically teaching a lot of the stuff that is 100% against what I teach. I guess that's fine if what I said didn't really resonate with him, but I believe he's on the wrong side of history with movements like this. This is a back arm drill. This is the exact movement you do not want with the back arm. You want this. Yes, the back arm can do this, and it's fine to do this if you're early on the pitch. But you don't want to train the back arm to punch outward like this. You want to train the body. Notice how independent the back arm movement is from the body rotation. You want to train the body to be the main source of power. When you're doing drills like this, punching outward like this, you're over and over again training the back arm to do a movement that's not desired. The back arm really has to be more of a support. And yes, it's going to extend outward. And yes, sometimes it may even extend outward with quite a bit of force. But this is only when you're adjusting on a pitch. I mean, for the most part, it is supporting the move that would be done if you were swinging with just the front arm. So any drill that is promoting less rotation of the body being involved in the hit, and any drill that specifically focuses on the back arm pushing outward, again, independently of body rotation. If you want to do a drill with the back arm, you can do the what I call the back arm progression. So you take a small bat. You can the same bat that you would use for the front arm progression. I sell a bat at theswingmechanic.com. You're welcome to get that one. or you can use any small bat you have. You know, the one on the swingmechanic.com is about 27 inches, and I believe it's about 22 ounces. So it's, you know, it's a good size for the front arm progression. You can also use it for what I call the back arm progression. If you're going to train the back arm and what to do, then you want to train it to really, as much as possible, be going along for the ride with your body rotation. So that would mean, you know, that the doorway drill, you're feeling that as you rotate forward, and then you want to feel like your body rotation is almost like, it's almost like there's an invisible door connected to your shoulder and your wrist, and that door is like opening, and then as your body and your hand is sliding down it, and then you're basically hitting the ball with your body rotation. What you don't want to practice is hitting the ball with the back arm extending outward and then basically stopping your body rotation. You notice that when guys have this deliberate extension of the back arm, you notice how they run out of room. Their body rotation then has to stop. Their back shoulder has to back up a little bit because their elbow is extending outward. And what happens? They run out of room. They get all crunched up. And what happens to the barrel? Well, the barrel's being delayed from releasing because of this pushing outward of the hands. Again, you can, of course, the back arm can extend through the hit, but your baseline position at contact should be very little extension of the back arm. And then when you work on pitches where you're out in front, which I'd never see in swing instruction land, put the tee out in front. Work on pitches where you're way early on the pitch. You're fooled. And work on that movement of being fooled instead of just acting like, oh, I'm never going to get fooled. You know, I'm never going to commit to the pitch unless I absolutely have to. I'll never be off on timing. That's what today's instruction wants to try to instill in you. It's unrealistic. You're going to be off on timing. Accept it. It's fine. You get at least three chances, likely more in every single at bat. Be okay with being off on timing. Even if you're off on timing on 3 straight swings and misses, that's part of the game. That's going to happen. You have to have the attitude that that's going to happen if I'm going to be getting my share of home runs and triples and doubles. I'm going to have to be off on timing quite a bit. I'm okay with that. I'm gonna commit. I may commit off on timing sometimes. I'm gonna mitigate those mistakes by working on the pitches that are out in front, setting the tee up out in front, and work on that. Work on being off on timing. Work on shifting my spine angle forward so I can reach the pitch well out in front. You see, Willie Mays did that all the time. Dave Winfield did that all the time. Shifting their spine angle forward. What people would call lunging. Hitting can look ugly. We're so afraid of getting our body, not perfectly in the geometric angles that need to be. And what is it doing? It's making hitters so tight. Just be okay with being off on timing. Be okay with, hitting a line drive where you're completely off balance, so off balance that maybe you let go of the bat. That can happen. That will happen. That's okay. You're being aggressive, and it's still a hit most of the time. Great hitters, I would say probably 15% of their hits are like ugly. They're out in front. They're almost one-handed hitting home runs. That's not poor hitting. That's, if you take away that 15% of hits from those great hitters, they're no longer great hitters anymore. So you have to be okay with those too. Look at Dave Winfield, like I said. hit ugly a lot of times. He almost won the batting crown with a 340 average. So, anyways, thank you guys for watching. Let me know your comments below. We covered a lot today, but those are the drills I favor and the drills I don't. And check out theswingmechanic.com. I'm working on a new book. It should be out soon. I'm also going to have a course out, which I'm really excited about. And I appreciate everyone's support. I've been on this for 20 plus years. I think we're close to making this really the #1 method in swing instruction. But before that happens, there's a huge opportunity for you guys out there to jump on board before everyone else does. So thank you guys. I appreciate all your support, and I'll see you next time.